Hey, sis. Have you ever watched somebody that just stay in the same patterns or stay stuck, even though it cost them everything? No matter how reckless things got, or how dangerous things got, or how bad financially they got, they just stay stuck. Yep. And it could be relationally, like in relationships, it could be with their finances, it could be with trust, with any opportunities that may have come up that they missed out on. They just stayed stuck and was reckless with stuff. And instead of like stepping back and then being like, let me see what is going on. Why do I keep going through this, instead of just reflecting and seeing like what actually is going on? No, instead of doing that, they just keep defending the behavior. Yeah. They don't try to figure out to resolve anything. They just keep defending it. And that's what's holding them back, because they can't even see like their ways. And it's not that they can't see, they don't want to see their ways, or they choose not to see it. I can't say they don't want to, because I don't know if they want to or not, but they're not doing it. Okay? And so if you've ever been like around somebody or close to somebody like this, you probably felt it too, like how it feels to just watch somebody just go through all this unnecessary pain and turmoil, or financial ruin, or end up with these people that are not good for them. And then next thing you know, it causes you to be frustrated and be confused, because you're like, why would you keep doing that to yourself? Or why would you keep picking these type of people? Or why would you financially put yourself in this type of situation when you was looking pretty good financially? Or why did you leave this job only to go to that job that's worse and don't even have no promise of the future? Yep. And then you sitting here wondering, like, will stuff ever change? Or even why would you leave that person and go with that person? That don't make sense. You left out of this neighborhood and went all the way down to that neighborhood. It make sense. And so let's talk about what's going on, because the thing is that one of the hardest things that, like, for a person to do sometimes is to admit that they need to change. hmm But the thing is that you can't change what you don't acknowledge. If you feel like you know everything and you don't need to change, and everything is great, and no matter what type of situation you're in, even though it's a bad situation or way worse than situation than you were in, and nobody can help them and tell them anything, you know what I mean? They don't even see it or admit that they need to change. That's the problem. There lies the problem right there. Because again, you can't change what you don't acknowledge. They can't even change it, because if they're not acknowledging that they need to change. And guess what? A lot of that boils down to pride. Yep. Because pride essentially has a way of like protecting like the ego. And so it pride will kind of whisper to a person and tell them stuff like, you're not the problem. It's not you, it's everybody else. Pride could also kind of get in your ear, or get in a person's ear, and be like, you fine just the way you are. You don't gotta change. It don't matter if you just flipped off on somebody and cussed them out, or you was disrespectful. Pride will tell them, they don't have to do that. Their ego, like, they don't have to do that. Their ego is saying, nope, it's not you, it's everybody else. Even though everybody else is peaceful and they're the only ones that's chaotic, but they feel like it's everybody else. Yep. Also, it'll their pride will protect the ego, also by whispering stuff like, they just don't understand you. Everybody is misunderstanding you. It's not you, it's everybody else. It's the whole room, not you. Even though you're the only one they're the only ones that's the problem. So they can't even admit it. So you can't change what you don't acknowledge. Or they knew they did all this deceptive stuff or whatever. Other people know it, they know it, but their pride and ego is not going to let them say, you know what, I've done some messed up stuff, I'm sorry. Instead, they're going to say, well, we wasn't on that level, or "Oh, I'm not married." And even if they are married, they, we was on a break. Instead of saying that was wrong. Wrong is two left shoes. They don't want to say that. Okay. And so in the moment though, it's like for them it could feel like comforting, like it's comforting to them. And then but here's the thing, it's like growth requires something that pride actually resists. Mm-hmm. What is that? What is that, Melinda? Humility. Humility. They can't even be humble and humble themselves. And so in order to grow, you have to you have to have humility and admit sometimes you're not right. You're not always right. None of us are always right. We all can learn something every day. Every single one of us. But not a person with too much pride and ego. They know it all. You can't tell them nothing. Even though, like I said, they may be loud and wrong. Or wrong is two left shoes. And so humility, but when you have humility, it allows you to pause and kind of look at yourself and self reflect and say, look inward and be like, okay, was I wrong in any of this? Where did I go wrong? And to reflect, in order to even reflect, you have to take accountability. But some people cannot take accountability. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. In order to be able to heal, you got to have accountability, humility to be able to open the door for healing. To acknowledge, like, okay, maybe I did some things wrong. I could have did this better than I did last time. You know, and it's not always easy though, and so that's why it's hard for some people. Cause in actuality, it's like when you have humility and you accept wrongs and things like that, sometimes also it makes you self reflect. And sometimes they may see something, it makes you see some things about yourself that maybe you didn't want to see, or it's hard to see. But when you're open and you're trying to heal and you're trying to be humble and do self reflection, you kind of have to, what I call, rip the band-aid off and just kind of learn, things that you did wrong or things that you could have did differently and make better choices. But that all requires humility. Yep. And so instead of reflecting, what some people do that have the pride and ego issues, they just keep going in a cycle because it's everybody else. It's not them. They can be cussing up a storm, being disrespectful, being not dependable. People can't depend on you. People don't know if you telling the truth or telling a story. I don't curse, so y'all. So I had this. I say story and all that, and so I never cursed a day in my life. But anyway, so they could be dishonest all the time, and I mean they just get themselves just twirled all into all kind of stuff. And instead of trying to unravel it and work it out and try to self-reflect as to what would make them a better person, what could they work on, that things that, what could they heal from childhood or things like that. They'll just keep spiraling and then they blame it on everybody else. And guess what? When you keep going in cycles like that and they keep having all these issues and then all these cycles, guess what ends up happening? Now you can't, that's why you can't keep a relationship. Now you don't have trust. People don't know whether, they'll have a saying about somebody like this because they don't know if they're truthful or not most of the time. So then next thing you know, people will be saying, oh, you know how I know so and so is telling the story? And then they say, how? And they say, because they talk and their lips is moving. That type of person. Because You don't know what's the truth because now they done got so balled up in all this dishonesty, and you gotta cover this one up with that one and with this one and with that one. You don't even know who that person is, and so but instead of going through all that, just they could just have pride, or they could just have some humility and just say, you know what, I'm not living like this anymore. It's wrong. But they don't do that, and then they miss opportunities, and then they still don't have understanding, and then the patterns just keep repeating because of that. Yeah. Because pride doesn't just protect the ego, it also blocks the growth. That's why they can't move forward. They can't move forward because you blocking your blessings and all the growth. Because why is God gonna put you with somebody that's like have humility, put them with somebody that's peaceful, put them with somebody that's honest, and they have all this foolishness going on that's gonna wreck the house? It don't even make sense. So if a person, if growth keeps a person from seeing clearly, what happens is it's like over time it creates a pattern of always being defensive instead of developing. So these type of people, they're not growing. They always are defensive and angry and on edge and stuff like that, instead of just doing the work and not having to look over your back for all this foolishness that they done got involved with, or reckless with their finances, and now you got to ask people for money all the time and all this stuff and need people to help you, instead of just saying, hey, you know what, I haven't been good, can somebody show me how to do this? Okay. But here's the thing, the moment they choose humility and try to, change the decide in their mind, because everything starts in your mind. If they decide, you know what, this is wrong, I don't want to live like this, I haven't been, this is not right, and they choose humility, that's when stuff starts to shift, because healing doesn't start with perfection. Okay. No, but none of us are perfect. But you got to start somewhere. You got to have humility to even acknowledge where you're wrong or where they're wrong. They got to start there. Okay. And so also, like I said, it starts with awareness too. Like you have to be self-aware that, okay, this is wrong. This is chaos. I can't keep doing this, instead of pointing a finger at everybody else. So the thing is though too, it's like God, he doesn't expect you to have everything together. He doesn't expect them to have everything together. He doesn't expect me to have every single thing together. But what he does is he calls us into truth. It says the truth shall set you free. Hmm. So he also wants you to have truth in your growth, into your transformation, because that kind of spins it all and works together. Okay? And sometimes the most powerful prayer is simply this: God, help me to see what I need to change. Not help me to see what they need to change. Help me to see what I need to change. Check my heart and see where I need to change. Okay? Because when pride steps aside, that's where healing's going to begin. Or that's where it can begin if you want it to, or if they want it to. Clarity comes back, peace comes back, growth becomes real. You start, excelling in different areas just from being humble. Yep. So if you've ever watched somebody who just was held back or just stood back because they had pride and ego issues, and they didn't want to like ask for help, they didn't want to acknowledge where they're wrong and stuff like that, then or even maybe like at some point maybe you found yourself there, you know, when growth was feeling uncomfortable, or it was kind of hard to kind of overcome that hurdle. Just remember that, change doesn't begin like when everything is perfect. Everything doesn't have to be perfect for change to start. Okay? It just begins the moment that you're willing to be honest and that they're willing to be honest. Okay, so I hope this message helped you to give you some clarity. And if it did, please like and subscribe. And my name is Melinda. I'm a registered nurse, life coach, and mentor. And on our channel, we focus on faith, healing, and emotional wellness. And I love to kind of research things and see how we can grow. And again, if this message helped you and you want to join our YouTube family, then please just like and subscribe. And also, if this helped you, just turn your notifications on and you'll get notified whenever I post. I typically will drop a video every day on different topics and things like that. I love researching things that help us in our walk in our life. And as always, I'm wishing you peace, love, joy, and happiness. I'm wishing that you have a fabulous day or night, depending on what time you're watching. All right. Love you guys. Bye.